March the Spy Guy, and I'm coming to you from live from the White House Situation Room. The show, for those who've never seen this show is a place where I come and give kind of my thoughts on what's going on in the world and talk about stuff from as a amateur military historian. I talk about stuff that's going on in the world and give it context from what happened in the past and kind of where I see things are going in the future. And number this week I haven't been able to do much because just working a lot. Luckily, I was allowed to work from home, and I was not feeling very well. I think I had a cold for the last 4 or 5 days, and it finally seems to recede right now. Okay, so what has been happening? Well, I was on Gonzalo Lira's channel earlier this week, and he had a couple ex-CIA agents on, and they were talking about just how the nature of intelligence in the United States is, and it's really bad. I knew it was bad, but and bureaucratic infighting was not too shocking to me. But the way things are going now, especially since the end of the Cold War, when we have lost, they didn't really speak too much on this, but I got the impression is that with the lack of ideology and the fact that Russia and China are now basically as wealthy as everyone else, you don't have the same old abilities to use intelligence the way that, or it's not so easy to recruit spies anymore, is what I'm trying to get to. Uh, People are not fighting because the Soviet Union is evil and has this oppressive communist state that doesn't allow you to do things, and so that you can be easily uh, swayed on an ideological spectrum. Now it's much more a return to nationalism, return to the more traditional vices of how you have to train and take on assets and either blackmail them into working for you using compromise or compromised materials, or have to recruit them, appealing to their ego. The guy got passed over for a job, and that's why he's more willing to work for you. And maybe you can feed him some chicken feed information so he can rise the ranks and become a mole and all that kind of stuff. This stuff's really hard now. And the problem is for a lot of people or for a lot of intelligence agencies, now they've become reliant upon what they call foreign intelligence sources. And for instance, this has really blinded the West during the Ukraine war because now they're reliant on, they just go in and they have they just go to a CIA officer gets up, drives down, or phones, or gets the facts or whatever from say the Ukrainian embassy or the Polish embassy on what's going on in Ukraine. They crank it over, they type and modify it to make sure it fits their formatting, and then they pass it on as solid intelligence material, which it isn't, because we know many of these agencies have their own reasons for lying to the Americans to get their support, and will do whatever they think will get the support from the United States or the West. And the same thing happens, and so the CIA officers are now passing that up the chain and embellishing it in a way to please their political masters. So the political masters are getting told what they want to hear, not necessarily what is actually going on. And this is a big problem for anyone who wants to make the job of intelligence is to tell you things you don't want to know in order for you to make the wisest decisions. And so we are not making the wisest decisions because of because we've created a bad intelligence loop. And many of the reasons why it used to be at different times a little better is you have the CIA. They used to have their operations department and their science and activities divisions with literal walls where you had to go and ask permission before you could walk in to talk to them from via operations. And now all those walls are gone and everyone working together. And you needed to have these kind of silos so operations would concentrate on their stuff and analysis wouldn't be affected by the needs of operations. And we're seeing this kind of like bad, because we're not getting these kind of accurate intelligence reports anymore via the CIA, which is the primary intelligence organization. Central Intelligence centrally organizes it. We're making some terrible, terrible decisions and believing things that are not true, like the fact that Russia is going to fall apart at any time, because that's the fever dreams of the Ukrainians. And Oh, hey, welcome to the show. There's someone in the chat. JS. And also how all decisions are made in corporations now. All yes men and psychopaths. No way to know what's true or really going on, and so they are blindsided. There's something to that effect. I mean, I worked in corporations. We used to have a weekly or monthly meeting in which we talked about the price of gas because we were a grocery company and the fact that that was happening. But I do agree. I think the era of zero interest rates has really affected the corporate world, where it was just so easy to just get more credit and adding it to your portfolio. And now that we're entering the world of 4% interest rates, people are going to have to the return of the era of normal interest rates. We're going to see corporations can't just do that anymore. They have to make money. So at least in the corporate incentive structures, a lot of these companies are going to be dying soon, and the replacement companies are going to come in, and that. Yes, you agree. Yeah, so they will be having that. If you want to call in, I'm more than happy to bring someone in on board. I'll drop the link in the chat, I think. You want to call in? Copy, because it's just kind of me here. So yeah, I'm more than happy to bring people in. That's not something I didn't really think about till a couple of my last stream when I had actual people on, and there's no pressure if you don't want to come in. That's no problem. I'm happy to just talk to you this way. Just thought I'd give people the opportunity now that I'm a small stream like this. So yeah, we're doing stuff in this. Oh, hey, someone you are calling in, John. Hey, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I've listened to you a few times. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, thanks. Oh, and we also have another person named Bear Berenston. Welcome to the chat there. Just join. We'll listen before asking any questions. Okay. So what would you like to talk about, John?
I don't know. Just I thought it was really interesting. I was just sitting here taking apart a printer, and I was like, hey, I saw your thing show up, and I was like, let's just listen, because you were talking about Serbia the other day. There's a lot of areas that are popping up, and yeah, just whatever you want to talk about. I just want to listen, and I'll chime in, I guess.
Yeah, sure. No, like I said, there has been basically, my understanding, an ultimatum went to Serbia, basically unofficial from the NATO ambassador saying we need you to stand down, take down the barricades that you put up, and the Serbians are talking about sent a request under the United Nations, the rules that were set up during the peace treaty, to say, hey, we want to send more cops up there to help protect, and they apparently expected it to be told no, but they want to go through the process, and that's something like everyone wants to get their T's dotted and I's crossed and all that stuff.
When Wagner's got all their Wagner's setting up, their people too, so they're getting ready.
Yeah, Wagner's an interesting group. From what I understand, basically, it's originally because the Russian Constitution says they can't send their armies outside the country except in like war or special military operations. And so they created the Wagner Group to do the things that their army wasn't allowed to do. So that's why when Venezuela, Juan Guaido was threatening to take over Venezuela, Russia sent a brigade of Wagner down there to make sure that didn't happen. And Trump was like, sure, I'm all happy to have a CIA PSYOP, but I'm not sending the Marines to Venezuela. Both of them, you had your chance, but they made this deal. And I once wrote an article back in while Chavez was still alive and got it published about I look at myself as a historian with occasional acts of journalism, and it was on the state of the Venezuelan army at that time. And it was just like the number one thing that poked up to me was how much money how many loans they had from Russian weapons manufacturers and arms dealers. And when the Russians sent in the troops, I'm like, yep, that does not surprise me. They were not going to lose all that money.
Investment, right? Yeah. They're not stupid about money.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things about Russia is that they're so, because they've been poor, because they've gone through hardship. They're like my father who grew up during the Depression, right? They have the value of things versus us. We just like the era of easy credit.
Right. Well, that's why they love gold, right? That's why they're going. He's about to set that gold standard. What about have you seen on Zero Hedge and stuff where they talk about the the new Zoltaire and the gold standard and all that's coming out?
Oh yeah, I've been well aware. I'm not someone who's buying Bitcoin, but every time I have an urge, I send off and buy another coin from the mint.
Yes. Yeah, I always recommend that. Yeah, I would not recommend buying Bitcoin. I left you a whole bunch of messages about Bitcoin, but you might not have seen them because they were in a live chat and then they got buried probably.
Oh, okay,
yeah, no, I'm well informed on Bitcoin. I'm an IT guy, and yeah, I got involved with it back in 2013. And then over the years, since I do infrastructure, I started to find out who actually owns it and controls it. And I got very disgusted with the whole thing.
Yeah. I think it has some utilitarian uses, especially within like the original crypto exchanges. When I first the base idea of like, Swift takes 3 or 4 days to send the money,
right?
Or we could go through Bitcoin exchange and have it moved instantaneously. And you're going to pay a bit for that. But when the idea you're going to leave your money there and think it's some sort of investment, that's crazy.
Right, and that's what it's led to, and a lot of problems and stuff. I don't know, you've got time for a short story, but I was telling this story the other day to somebody. A guy at work, he put so much of his money into Ripple. I know you might have heard of Ripple. Yep. So he put hundreds of thousands of dollars into Ripple, and he either because he leaves it on the exchange, so he got his IRS bill. His IRS bill was as much as he makes in his salary at our job.
Wow.
His IRS bill was over $100,000.
Wow.
So then he had to sell his investment to pay his IRS bill. I'm like, you realize how stupid this is, right? You're hodling. I mean, that's why I hate the whole hodl thing. The hodling thing just kills me. I mean, it's literally just draining these people out of both ends. It's killing them out of both ends. Yeah.
Well, I try to. I have a little bit of money on my personal exchange, not like not crypto. Like I have a separate stock account for my financial planner has most of my money. I have a little bit of money in speculative stuff that he won't take care of, like a lot of gold stocks and stuff like that. He said, this only performed well in 2008, Dave. I'm like, yeah, and we're going into another 2008. That's why I'm buying this.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's boy, things are going.
So what was this? So I was talking about intelligence stuff earlier.
Yeah.
And one of the things, because I've written and published stuff about intelligence agencies, and it just so struck me that what we're looking at, like saying about the stuff with we're just going out and taking what the Ukrainians are doing and all that stuff, reminded me so much of what happened with during the late 70s and 80s under Andropov, when Andropov became so paranoid that the United States and the West was going to launch a nuclear war on him or on the Soviet Union. And he ordered all the agents to go and find evidence of this. And so all these agents had to go and were started making up stuff because that's what their careers were based on. They would get promoted if they didn't deliver the product. And we saw that, and the same with the Iraq war, where
the Iraq war, that one I know,
there was what was it, Operation Curveball. So when Secretary of State Powell went to the UN and he showed up all these pictures of these mobile bioweapons.
Yes, that one.
So those things were based on information given them by Curveball, so which was a former Iraqi who fled to Germany, and he was giving the Germans the information, and then CIA artists created those based on his descriptions. It was not intelligence. It was the imaginings. And then the director, the highest ranking guy in Europe, one of the most senior guys in the CIA, found out about this. And he said, I want to go talk to this guy. Well, bring me all the reports on the people who've actually talked to Curveball from the CIA. And they said, oh, no, none of us has actually ever talked to this asset. The Germans won't let us talk to him. And he's like, we have hundreds of thousands of troops on Iraq based on information from a guy no one in our agency has talked to.
Sounds like Russiagate.
Yeah.
Sounds literally like Russiagate again. Yeah. So they just replay the same plan over and over and over again. Yeah.
Yep. And unfortunately, not enough people get wise to the situation, or they say, "Well, we'll never allow ourselves to fall for that one again," and then they do it the next week.
Oh, they got us that time. Oh.
Mhm.
Oh goodness.
Mhm. Yeah,
Oh.
go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, just like, but I'm planning on one day writing a book about all this kind of weird chicanery because it's gone on since the dawn of really modern intelligence.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the Red Orchestra?
No.
Okay, the Red Orchestra was the Soviet operation against first it's against France in the 30s. So they set up this whole elaborate operation in the France in the 1930s, and then the Germans invade France. So they're set up as a corporation of a supply corporation. So they get a contract with the German private public partnership. Is essentially this what this thing is. So there's this giant Nazi affiliated construction company that does all the monuments and does all this work for them and supplies a lot of stuff to the army. So they get a contract from this group, start supplying them, going to their procurement meetings as a corporation and getting all this intelligence information. They're sending back to Russia or the Soviet Union.
Man.
Yeah.
That's some crazy stuff.
Yeah, and finally they figure out the German intelligence agency, and they're going to have dinners with like the high-ranking guys, and so they finally get a picture which looks as the head of the Russian spy network, and they go to the German general who is in charge of Paris, and they say, "Have you ever seen this guy?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I had dinner with him last week."
I have a book upstairs that I read years ago that details how the Russians had created all these double spies in Great Britain, and how they had used all of the homophobia to control them. Right. Because there were so many gay guys in the British Secret Service that the Russians were blackmailing them all, and that's how they controlled them, like during World War II and the war and afterwards in the Cold War.
Yeah, eventually the British intelligence, they were very wise after they ran into those scandals, and they said to their agents, "We don't care if you're gay or not, but if you're gay, you have to come out."
Yeah. Yeah. After that, they had to. Yeah. Keeping it a secret's causing a national security issue here.
Yeah, you got to come out of the closet if you're going to work here. That's just how it is.
Yeah, fascinating story. I mean, yeah, like I said, the Russians really have been able to work on spies and spycraft for so long. They have such a long history of it.
Yeah, the real developments of their intelligence agencies comes out in the 19th century when they're having all these secret polices against all the anarchs and all the different revolutionary groups that are sparking up all the time.
Right.
It is interesting. It's because before the 19th and especially early 20th centuries, you would get a guy like a Walsingham for Elizabeth I. And he would set up this very extensive intelligence network, or the Cardinal Richelieu, the same kind of thing. And as soon as those guys died, the networks disappeared. There was no institutional memory of intelligence organizations.
Oh, yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, and that's, or maybe not, depending on your viewpoint, right?
Or not. It depends on your point of view, right?
Maybe we'd all be better off if we didn't have all this institutional memory.
Yeah. See, that's funny. That's how ingrained we get into things. I feel sad about that, even for them, even though I probably shouldn't.
Yeah. So yeah, and it was funny because in World War the development of MI5 and MI6, what happens is there's a series of what the the Tim Clancy of his day in the 1900s started writing all these books about like a secret German invasion plan of England,
Mhm.
and it caused parliamentary furor, and all the newspapers were like ramping up. It's like the Germans have a secret army; they're going to cross the Channel and take out London in 2 days, and all this stuff. And Parliament gets so into like, well, clearly we have an advanced established network of intelligence assets run by the Foreign Department or the Navy, but maybe it's a good idea that we centralize it in 1 or 2 departments and see what we have, because we all know we have these vast networks of spies out there, but we don't know enough about them. So they created MI5 and MI6, and they told all the departments to hand all their spy networks to them to
Oh,
properly centralize. And then they found out there wasn't any. Everyone just assumed we had a bunch of agents running around doing stuff,
that's crazy.
but usually it would end up being, except for India, where they did have by that time a very well-established network of guys running the great game in spying into like north of India and running into the Russians. Almost all the other departments had nothing, or they might have a guy, and they might have a guy like they might just go down to the local club, find a couple adventurers, Alan Quartermain, Indiana Jones types to go off
Yeah.
for them. And that would be what the network was.
That's very, very disorganized spycraft there back then.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Mhm.
That's wild.
Yeah, and Bear Barrington stays. He's also well versed in crypto. Like I said, most of this stuff has come really recent to me because Sam Bankman-Fried and all that stuff.
Oh man, the whole FTX scandal. That stuff makes me so angry.
Mhm.
One of the greatest scandals now. It's going to be like one of the largest scandals ever.
Yeah, really up there. And I think it's also a product of this whole easy credit situation where
Yes.
people just had too much money and they didn't know what to do with it. So they threw it down all these rat holes,
Yep.
and allowed them to do all these stupid things. And now it's coming back to haunt them.
Yeah, they've already started to say that is one of the main causes of it. I mean, it was because he's already admitted that he did it on purpose, that he stole. He said this recently in an interview that he admitted he was sorry. It was just too much money, and he wanted it all. It was just too much easy money, right? Exactly. I mean, that was the whole point. It was just too much easy money. I mean, my God, if you see how much money people used to blow on like crypto, because I used to, like I said, I spent days and years on it, and on crypto Twitter especially. Oh my God, I probably spent too much of my life in the early days on that, and just watching it, and like people would lose a couple of $100 every minute or something, and it's like, and then they'd lose a couple of $1,000, and then it got to the point where oh, I just lost 5 Bitcoin. It was like it's getting it was crazy, and these people were just blowing all their money and going bankrupt and losing their houses and all the free easy money.
Yep. Well, it's $1,000. I thought maybe in the early days I'd put $1,000 in it and just let it sit. That's about all I thought about it. But I have friends who have the like wallets with Bitcoins from back then, and they don't know the passwords to them, or they lost the keys, and that's why I'm like, with a gold coin, I at least know where it is.
Exactly.
I don't have to remember what my password from 10 years ago was.
Or the hard drive crashes, or you lose your chain and you're done, and then the chain split, and then everything. Then you buy into some of these scammer ones, and then you don't come back to it till about a year or two later, and you find out that they've split the whole chain, and you no longer have access to it, and whatever you had is gone, and
So what is that what you normally do, is fix printers?
No, I'm taking this one apart. So for years I've been collecting parts to make things out of. So I've been building batteries and building wind machines and all kinds of just things, just random stuff. And so I've been stacking in my basement for years, old printers, for free from people. And now I'm just stripping out all the parts I need, because I need so what you need is the 2 basic things you need is you need the cord that comes with it right there. and then you need the motor.
Okay.
And then with that, and attach that to a bike tire, and then you have a manual means of recharging batteries. So you have, you can build your own, and then that can go to a windmill. But you can start off with that with just human manual turning. And so I'm just building devices, more of a tinkerer, just tinkering around. But yeah, it's not what I do for a living. What I do for a living is IT infrastructure, like AWS management, and all the big stuff in the cloud, fun, boring stuff.
Yeah.
Programming
on one of my other on my other channel, I once interviewed this guy who was in a similar situation with IT, and he was telling me about how when Facebook first came out, he read the entire terms of service of Facebook, and he's like, no one in my house, not my wife or my kids, are going on Facebook. And he specifically set up his network in his house to make sure that Facebook was blocked.
Oh, that's smart. I mean, yeah, you should. No one would ever use anything if they ever read all the terms of service. I mean, pretty much it's awful.
Yeah.
But what are you gonna do, right? I mean, eventually after a while, you just have to use some stuff, I guess. And
yeah, no, for me, Twitter is pretty good. I'm using, of course, YouTube and stuff. I do still have my Facebook account, but
yeah, my wife uses that.
Yeah, it's just a way to connect with some friends that I hardly talk to anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for all of her friends and stuff, and it seems to be more used by Gen X. So I'm a Gen X.
Same
and it seems to be a lot of Gen X still heavily use Facebook, for keeping up and everything.
Yeah. For me, what is it? I think that one's going the way of Yahoo. It'll still be around. It's not going to be completely destroyed, but like you said, it'll be this kind of a niche thing. And
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Facebook's definitely going that path. Yeah. It's definitely going the path of the niche. Because yeah, I mean, guys at work or even like millennials I talk to at work laugh. They go, "What is that?" "Oh, I forgot there was Facebook." Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, "Oh right, yeah, I forgot." Yeah. Ah, there we go. Sorry, you can hear all the parts jangling. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So nice to talk to someone here.
But yeah, so you're up in Canada.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah. So you got the same cold we just got. I'm in Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I have a number of friends in Columbus. I used to go. Maybe I'll go this year again. Finally, with the border open up, I used to go to Origins, the gaming convention there.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah. We're not too far. Yeah. So yeah, just not too far away from Canada here.
Yeah. Yeah. Right now, where I'm living. It's almost all gone. It's 9 degrees centigrade outside. So it's
yeah. So that's, I forget what that is. So that's add what's the
degrees or something like that.
I think it's add 24 divide by something. I used to have it memorized, but I've forgotten. I've forgotten now. But yeah, we got a warm patch. It's 50. It's actually about in the 50s right now. And then we'll have another cold blast coming in, it looks like. Fun.
Yeah, well, that's winter.
Right. It's winter. I don't know why. I'm also obsessed with the weather too. That's also my other hobby is studying weather.
Yeah, my stepfather, he got himself a degree in like meteorology. And
oh wow!
He worked in Yellowknife for a few years, but he said that was the only place he could get a job, working in meteorology. And he's like, Yellowknife is nowhere to raise a family, so he moved down to Edmonton and got himself a job roofing. So
roofing instead of
yeah. So meteorology definitely comes in handy in that job. It just was not.
Yeah.
But he said one time he was up in Yellowknife. And, he's working in the airport, and some Cessna's coming in for a landing, and there's a giant storm out, and the pilot's like, "Okay, you can turn on the strobe lights now. That's kind of hard to see up here." And they're like, "The strobe lights are on, sir."
Oh man, just a white out, huh? Oh man, yeah, that was the other day when it just hit here. That was Only the second time I've ever seen a whiteout. The other time was when I was in Montana, lived in Montana.
Mm. I grew up mostly in Ottawa and spent my summers here with my father. So in Ottawa, yes, I do see a lot of whiteouts up there.
Ah, okay. Interesting.
There's occasionally it comes down here. I remember a few years ago, 3-4 years ago, I was driving to work and there was like a whiteout, and I turned around and went home.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I had to pull off to the side of the road. That's that I've got to say that's one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen in my life. Is driving in a whiteout.
Yeah, is that or when you have a really stupid heavy thunderstorm? I've seen even the big rainstorm.
Yeah, I grew up in that though. I grew up in the South in Georgia and here in the United States, and so I grew up in huge, heavy thunderstorms, tornadoes, and what's the other one? Hurricanes. Yes.
Yeah.
I guess those don't bother me as much as
I've only been through one hurricane, and it was at the tail end when I was with my ex-fiance, and we were both in St. John, confined to our hotel room. I'm like, this is
you're down in the real area, St. John, huh? Yeah, you're really getting blasted with it down there. Mm-hmm. Nice. Oh, yeah. So looks pretty exciting today. I was just I don't know if do you ever look at a War News 24/7?
No, I haven't been watching that one. For me, I'm more of a macro on when it comes to some of the military stuff. So I'm not on. I watch. I'm friends with on Twitter with Defense Politics Asia, so sometimes I'll go and watch his stuff. But the day-to-day minutia doesn't exactly interest me. Or like people come to me and they'll say, "Hey, what's going on here?" And I'm like, "Give me 2 weeks to know what's that."
Yeah, that's me. I'm more of the day-to-day minutia on it. Yeah, I'm because it looks like Bakhmut just fell.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so Bakhmut just officially fell, and the Ukraine's admitting it and they're trying to save face on it right now, and so yeah, it's a huge defeat, and Russia actually not only did it fall, they achieved a pincer movement on it and have actually gone around it. And so it's almost completely surrounded.
Oh, wow.
So it's a massive defeat. Yeah. So that's going to make some big news here.
Yeah. Bakhmut falling has been something I've been talking about for a while, but every time I heard it was going to fall, it didn't fall. It looked like grinding, but if it's finally broken through, they
finally broke through. I mean, Ukraine finally just admitted it fell. So So that's the big deal. And then the whole thing with the Poles, Poland admitted that they actually have real troops and real army there.
Yeah.
And not just mercenary and not just, non-active duty. So they actually admitted a day or two ago that they actually have active duty there.
Oh yeah. Well, they had to admit it. They had over like 2
weeks.
3 weeks ago, they had 1,000 dead people. I'm like,
right. So that was the thing. Yeah. So they actually, So that, and I think it's what gave it away was all of the dead, and that they had to build some new cemeteries. So that's really what sort of like kicked all this whole. You had to admit it all.
Yep. No, I understand why they're doing it, but it is like they're bloodying troops or getting people prepared for stuff. But I've heard some interesting things from Alex, the Duran we're talking about, the fact that the Polish army that's being mobilized seems to have a lot of an administrative staff in it, and not just the kind of people you put together for an occupation force, not just an invasion force. So they might be going into Galicia after all.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that actually came out recently too. It was a discussion that the Russians even had. Yeah, I think it was Lavrov or somebody admitted that and said, yeah, there's a discussion that the Poles are, looking to take the area, not invade. They're
They're going
to. There's a lot of that.
Their ancestral homeland.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that actually was Polish area. So then I found that out I think I read that yesterday or something. I was like, oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Someone who's played a lot of World War II games or just know the history and that, it's basically what happened is Nazi-Soviet pact happens. And so all the stuff that was from the Treaty of the Tosk that ended the Russo-Polish War of 1920-21, the Russians were forced to give up all this territory and back to the Poles, who then lost it in the 39 invasion when the Soviets and the Germans split it. And then there was some trading and population transfers that happened at the end of World War II, where modern Poland is now. Like East Prussia is now part of Poland, but it's all full of Poles because they moved all the East Prussians out of there.
Huh. Wow. Well, yeah, that explains why they're moving in then.
Yeah, but it is also something I didn't know about at the time, but I only learned in last year, is that basically it was not hunky-dory down there because the Ukrainian nationalists were assassinating people like the Polish foreign minister at the time and other people. So it was like a little bit of the Irish troubles happening
Yeah.
in that portion of Poland at that time.
Well, I saw that the other day, and that like blew me away. I don't know if you saw the thing where the Ukraine sent a bomb or something to the Polish commander.
Yep, the Polish police chief.
Yes,
a present by a Ukrainian police chief that had a bomb in it. And
right.
They're like, how does this get here?
Right. Oh, I don't know how that bomb got there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that goes along with what you just said there.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's some craziness.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's getting very very World War I, very balkanized. Mass chaos. There's not really one side or the other. It's a little bit of this, a little bit of that on each side, and all mixed in stew.
Right. Yeah. No, that's the way Europe is returning to normal. All this 50 years of the EU ever trying to tighten its grip on people. And it's like I've had discussions with people. For me, I didn't really pay much attention to the European Union until Brexit happened. And as a political person, people were coming up to me and like, Gabe, can you explain Brexit to us? And I'm like, okay. And I started doing research, and then I learned much about how the European Union was set up and operated. And it's like, it reminds me so much of the Confederation of the United States. The Federation, the Revolutionary War, opposed to the Confederacy. That's just and the idea is that we didn't want the people who founded it wanted to bureaucratize these countries into a unified state, and it's like, no, that's not. You can't do it that way. If you want to make the United States of Europe, you actually have to create legislatures and empower the parliament and have them and create a proper state, get everyone to buy into that. And they're like, well, we'll never get all these countries to do that. And it's like, well, maybe you at least try. It's
really just a top down. Yeah.
Yeah, but you've created it through your East European commissioners, and you're just trying to slowly, incrementally put it across. And because no one has there's no way to push back against this or to get the signals from the legislatures, because that's really how you get by and why is democracy so great, even though it seems to be so terrible at times, is that at least the politicians will respond to pressures from the people. Right, but nothing about it when you're a federalist top-down autocracy is what they were looking for. The technocracy manager. Technocracy, there you go. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you. The technocracy. Yeah. And just trying to force everyone together. And it's like, that's not going to work, because you're not going to pick up on the signals that you're doing something wrong. And the other problem is, I mean, like for Europe, like Poland has about 150,000 troops, 200,000 once it's fully mobilized. Do you know how big the German army is? It's very small right now. Yeah, it's like 66,000 men. Yeah. For a country of like 80 million people. France has got like 110 with the Parisian Fire Brigade, which is apparently part of their army. England's going to downsize by another 10,000 to 80,000. Like, who's going to fight this war with Russia, or who's going to be able to keep their populations down when they go poor and hungry this year? Right, and and then I mean, if it's to be believed, that even that small German army is very poorly equipped, and from what I keep hearing reports of, everything is broken. That it's just not kept up. They didn't care,
and they didn't even try.
Yep. Yep. No, it's something about 18 armored personnel carriers was driven around on a maneuver, and they all broke.
Yeah, yeah. I keep on hearing stories like that and stuff about, it's just they didn't equip anything. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I saw the other day where Poland and the new Italian prime minister came together and said they were going to form an alliance, and they were going to be the new power in Europe,
Mhm.
and that they were going to fight against Germany and France's, and Brussels, techno, autocracy kind of a thing. And I was like, oh, there you go. That's
Yep.
it right there.
Yeah, that's a good one. I hadn't heard about that, but I'm a little surprised we hadn't heard that from McCurse and Christopher on the Duran. But yeah, that's definitely something to look into.
Yeah, it was on
Because,
the front page of Zero Hedge, so it'd be easy to find.
okay.
Yeah, it was actually easy to find. Yeah, it was just on Zero Hedge.
Yeah, I need to spend more time on Zero Hedge. I do spend most of my time often on some of the sub pages. Like Tom Luongo has a private Slack server, so I spend time there. And then get information from that. But that's more financial. If you're interested in like with the Davos WEF stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Always got to follow that stuff too. You got to see what they're doing.
Yeah. To me, it's just like people say, "Isn't this all conspiracy theory?" I'm like, look, it's not conspiracy theory. It is
when it's facts in your face.
Yeah, they write books. They hold conferences. They're telling us what they're doing. It's like the Comintern in the 19th and early 20th centuries. They have conferences. They tell us what their plans are. It's not. Yep. It's not a conspiracy. Wait, just you go read the books and tell me that I'm wrong. Like, oh
right. Yeah, but that's part of their agenda is misinformation, and I mean they even talk about it in their agenda. We have to control everybody by misinformation and control the information, because that way everyone just goes along.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, there's guys like us who look at this. It says this is misinformation. I'm like, oh, so that is when you put "mis," you mean it's true.
Right. Yeah, the old joke of conspiracy theories only wrong until it's right. It'll eventually always be right.
Yeah. No, I have a friend of mine. I know he told me why he doesn't like to dabble in conspiracy theories. He's Jewish, and he says all conspiracy theories may come back to us. And I'm like, I get there's some worry there, but there's also the fact that there's just bad people. Adam Smith said, two businessmen seldom get together for mirth or amusement, but it always ends in a conspiracy against the public.
Yes, I know. I just saw that quote the other day. I was like, oh, that's so smart. That's so brilliant. Yeah.
Yep. So conspiracies form, fall, rise every day, and most of them either come to no fruition or we never hear about them. And just because though the bad people don't want you to believe it. I remember Gonzalo Lira says, "Oh, I just think it's all stupid people." And I'm like, maybe that's just what you've been programmed to think. The education system and pop culture is that, it's just stupid people out there doing stupid things. And it's like, or maybe it is bad people doing bad things via conspiracies, and they just want you to think they're stupid.
Well, yeah, because that makes it easy, because it's plausible deniability then, and it's easy to or like in my corporate culture now, because you can see where they do the same thing in corporate culture where they try to tell everybody, oh, you need to assume that everything is a positive intent now. So they want you to assume everything is a positive intent. Yeah, but you just stole all that money. Oh, have a positive intent.
Right.
It's like, come on. I just saw the vendor. Just saw the vendor deceive, and you're suing them. So positive intent about that? Oh, okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what was we were talking a little about Chechnya, there's something for you.
Yeah.
People have for Chechnya. People keep telling me the Russians won't be able to stop the inevitable insurgency that comes along, and I'm like, They got just go look at Chechnya. They got 10,000 Chechens fighting on their side. They seem
Yeah.
to be doing pretty good against insurgencies, unlike, say, the United States or the West. Where is our Afghan Legion fighting for the goodwill of people in the Ukraine?
Oh
wait.
man. Yeah, that was a real, oh boy, was that a cluster. It was like, and then we ended up just giving all of that to somebody, and it's all being used, all that equipment's being used against us now. And
Yep, all the free samples given to China. Now,
well, yeah, all the free samples to China. Oh man, that's literally what happened. I mean, you saw that. I mean, they even was even the news. As soon as we left, they literally just came right in.
Yep.
Like just walked right in.
Yep.
China came in and just scooped it all up.
Well, China and Russia, and apparently I didn't know afterwards, but listening to Tom Longo, he said, no, what's happened is a year or two, in about 2018, apparently Russia went in there and said, okay, it's clear the Americans are leaving and they're not going to fix this mess. Who needs, and got all the players to sit down. How are we going to divide this? How are we going to do this? Make sure everyone gets what they want so everyone can have peace on their borders, and we'll negotiate this. Because now I have India wrapped up with China. India instantly switched over to the other side after, when they should have remained neutral. They could have easily remained neutral had Biden and those guys not been total jerks to them.
Yeah, that's a part a lot of people aren't getting, is that India is on the other side now.
Yeah.
Like nobody's getting that. Nobody. Yeah. It's like it's not, that doesn't, when most of our IT is now run by a country who is starting to openly go against us. What is that going to do for all of our stuff? Right.
Yeah, it's and all the sources of engineers and all this other stuff that we use to undermine the labor market with these things. I was like listening to someone basically explain about the contract, the STEM contracts, where we bring in all these Indian engineers to work in a country for Facebook or Netflix or whatever, and they're only able to do that because their visa only works as long as they keep that job, and basically it undermines the value of workers. It's basically, they said, it's indentured servitude.
Yes, yeah, it's terrible for most of them. It's awful. Yeah, I've seen it. I've known them, like I said, been in IT for over 20 plus years. I've seen it. I mean, I feel bad. I feel bad for a lot of them. It's not great. Yeah. And everyone thinks it's one way, and it's really not. It's really just their masters are making all the money, and they just scoop up all these, all these people in their country, and they literally put them into, like you said, indentured servitude.
Yep. It was just like, I didn't really think about it that way until it happened. It's like, and I'm just thinking about, maybe it's just the guys with the apple pickers and that kind of stuff that we bring in, because we won't do that work anymore. But the same guy was pointed out, if we didn't have all these people coming in, we'd figure something out. And it's also preventing us from developing technologies, or if we guys in the West really want our apples picked, we would figure out some way of doing it without indentured servitude, robots or mechanical, or tractors or something like that to get all the apples off the trees, if we just didn't have these people.
Well, I mean, it's even worse than that, because the difference between those analogies is they intentionally laid off all of these Western IT people. So for over a decade and a half, they intentionally laid off all these people and brought in the indentured servitude.
Yeah.
So it's not that didn't have the technology and we didn't have the people and we didn't have people working. They just got rid of us all. I mean, not me, but they got rid of all these, old timers, and they got rid of all these people. And yeah, I mean, it was an intentional, the whole globalization thing, it was an intentional profit to just make more profit. And there would be plenty of more people who would go into IT here. I mean, tons of people, but you're not like, it's hard to get in. It's hard to get in.
Yep. I mean, my ex-girlfriend's husband, they moved to Germany because he had a doctorate in electrical engineering and he couldn't get a job here.
Oh my God! Oh, you got to be kidding me!
He's working for Bosch now, or at least is for now. Who knows how much longer he'll be working there with the way things are going, the
Right.
deindustrialization of Germany. So, but yeah, it's pretty.
That's incredible.
Right?
That's incredible. Yeah. But yeah, that's it. It's you always have a job. You know, that's why I always tell people. You know, when people ask me, I always say you're always going to have a job if you do what I do. Which you know, I'm like the garbage man of IT. You know, it's like you're always going to have a job doing crap work that nobody wants to do.
Right.
You know? And eventually, they'll just keep. Oh well, we got to keep that asshole. You know, they just keep moving you along,
right.
and you know, you don't ever get laid off. You know, you go through places, and every year there's a layoff, and they always want to keep you and you know, and a few others. But you know. So I always tell people, you know, if you want to do, you got to do the hard. You got to do the hard. You can't do the glamour work. You got to do the hard work. You know.
Yeah, I worked in a grocery company here in Canada for 18 years. My father would say, "Well, Dave, one kind of thing, they're always going to need food."
Yes, yeah. Always, yeah. It's always a good thing. It's always a good thing, especially nowadays. It's even more important nowadays.
Yeah. No, now I work for an appliance company, so. But I'm in a specialized logistics field where there's not as many jobs for them. But when there's not, because of that, also not many people have the skill. So it's a valued skill.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, gotta keep a job nowadays.
Oh yeah, that's the way things are going. I remember at the beginning of this year, I went and bought a freezer because we were going to go through everyone was worried about the logistics crunch that was coming down, all the freighters tied up at the ports. And though it did seem we got through that reasonably well, the price inflation has gone through the roof.
Yes.
And that is having an effect on everything and everyone. Start looking at trying to buy. Even myself, I have to look at the things in the grocery store and say, maybe there's got to be some other alternative to doing this cheaper.
Right. And then, I mean, when you think about when that all starts, you know, when they finally just cut off everything to us, what are you going to do?
Yeah, right. Well, I feel I'm in Canada. I had some other people come up to me and say things to me. And I'm like, I've never been worried when they pass another dumb law, because usually it requires, I'll worry when they start hiring more police. And they start hiring more soldiers. That's the time you should be worrying, because they'll have more people to do these terrible things. Right now, they have a bunch of laws they can't enforce anyways. But when I saw at the beginning 21, and they decided U.S. Capitol Police were suddenly going to have branch offices, and they're hiring tens of thousands of new people, and I'm like, okay, that is a definitely bad sign.
Yep.
United States.
Yep. Yeah, we'll be heading into another civil war before you can shake a stick.
Yeah, I'm not too sure it's going to be a full-on civil war, but I do think there will be trouble. I know people talk about national divorce. I don't know if you're familiar with Kurt Schlichter. He's a writer and conservative, and he's written this. He wrote a bunch. He first wrote a book called Conservative Insurgency, which was about how it's set in the future, and how the conservatives eventually took over the United States and took it away from the Democrats. And it does get violent, but it's more of a cultural over the time situation. Like there's like one riot where the left stands down and and becomes much more state focused. But he also has a series called The Split, and where the Democrats, because all the blue states leave and the red states leave, and all the there's like population transfers as well, and how it all goes down. And he keeps saying on Twitter, he's like, my books are supposed to be a warning, not a handbook.
It's like 1984.
Yeah, it's like, you're not supposed to be doing this.
Yes. Oh goodness. Well, my phone's about to die, so I guess I should call it. But
Yeah,
this was great. It's great talking to you.
talking to you an hour. So, and that works out well for me. So I just wanted to get some stream out here and get like my supporters some new content.
Yeah.
It worked out great.
Hey, man. Great talking to you.
You too.
Catch you next time.
Okay. Bye. So yeah, welcome to the channel and the show. And I just wanted, that was great. We got a random caller in and we talked to him for nearly an hour. And I hope you guys will, hope you got some information out of that. And if you like this kind of content and you want to reach out to me, you can follow me at my locals page, link below. And you can also just like, share, and subscribe, and that'll be great. So good to talking to you, and I'll see you in the new year. Oh, I might have a New Year's Eve party stream. People are welcome to come and watch that. We'll be playing party games, but I'm not too sure. I have to see if people would want to go along for the ride on that one. Okay. So bye-bye.